Hello, my soul friends. It's Victoria, the soul nurturer, here to just take some time to connect with you, with myself, with the world, with this collective unfolding that we often say and hear that we are not in alone, but we're in this together. That I like to say it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about us or we, right? So, I woke up this morning, as I often do, with today was in particular just a downpour of ideas and concepts and words. And sometimes I get up and capture it on my phone, or if I'm really feeling motivated, get right out of bed and journal, which I got to be quite honest, I haven't done that for a while. During the colder weather, I will reach for my phone. I'm going to be really frank, get my phone, and thank goodness for the note on my notepad. So, but this morning, what was coming was, I think it was my psyche adjusting myself, and from me, and by extension, helping my clients and anyone that's within my reach to offer support. And that's what this YouTube channel is about for me, to expand my reach, to, if I offer just one little bit of support or hope or inspiration to someone, then I'm fulfilling my purpose. So this morning, what came to me, I was thinking about, we are being asked to, especially where I live, I don't know other parts of the country, but I know California is affected too, but Washington, we're having quite a spike in COVID. And so we are being asked to shelter in place again for 4 weeks. And I honestly knew this was coming, and not because I'm psychic, and not because I thought that or believed that this was going to get worse before it got better, although my more scientific-minded husband did, but because I do follow astrology, and it's really fascinating to track the astrological weather to see what's going on and what might be happening. And the same aspects we were having in March, maybe April, when this whole thing blew up the first time, is happening right now. Well, it spiked last week. We had the aspect last week, and COVID spiked last week. And here we are, this repetition of a pattern. Now, here's the thing. The idea that came to me this morning, actually I made a post about it on my Instagram, which is Sacred Soul Vision, with Victoria Jazwic. I'm trying to change that to Victoria Jazwic, the Soul Nurturer, but I don't know if that's taken for some reason, but it's not working. But that's what I have right now, Sacred Soul Vision with Victoria Jazwic on Facebook or Instagram. But this is the way that it came. Resisting what is. We limit ourselves. We put ourselves in more of a box than any request to alter our daily lifestyle, right? We put ourselves in a box in our mind. And so the words were, instead of thinking about, I can't do this or I can't do that, think about what you can do within the can't do, okay? And this is the power of reframing. That's what I want to talk to you about today. The power of reframing, which helps us shift our perspective, okay? So this is what I wrote and turned into a little meme, I guess, or a post on Facebook and Instagram. Reframe your I have to do it, right? Reframe when you think, I have to do this. There might be a resistance to that. There might be some feeling of obligation or frustration. Oh, I have to do it. Even just the way I say it, what does that feel like? I have to do it, or you have to do this. For the things that we want to do, or that we need to do, to I get to do. So this is how I wrote it. Reframe what you have to do that you don't want to do into what you get to do. And that is practicing the power of shifting your perspective. So which feels better? I have to, shelter at home or shelter in place for 4 more weeks, or step up my protocol of mask wearing and washing my hands and social distancing? Or can you look at what you get to do within this request? Again, some may feel like it is a limitation. There are many things that feel like limitations, and we can get really, really stuck if we layer that with a perception of we are being limited. Someone is limiting us, when we need to remember that no one can access your mind and limit the way you're going to view something. Okay. And the other thing that came to me this morning, and it's not just new, it's been coming to me for the whole time. And it's sort of where I try to think about how can I live from this place? And that is, it's not about me and it's not about you. It's about us, or we, all of us. And then the third thing, I told you there was just a bunch of downloads this morning. Then this quote came to me and I had to look it up to see who it was from. And what was coming to me was the phrase, we have forgotten that we belong to one another. And I was like, yeah, that's right. We have forgotten that we belong to one another. So I went and looked it up, and that's actually from Mother Teresa. And the full quote that I saw was, we do not have peace because we have forgotten that we belong to one another. That's way bigger than, just this concept of being in this now moment with this request to be mindful, to be aware that the request to practice these protocols of safety is not just for us, it's for others, it's for all of us. Okay. So, and that how we choose to perceive and look at any situation is either going to create an inner chaos or frustration or frustration. There's a lot of frustration right now, isn't there? Despair. Or we can shift our perspective, reframe. I call it the reframe game. Take how you're thinking about it. Notice how that feels. When I think about, I can't go have Thanksgiving with my 30 friends. I can't do that. What does that feel like? Or I'm being told to do this and I don't want to. What does that feel like? And now try this. I get to, and then fill in the blank. What's your choice? What can you do and the can't do? Okay. So there are other possibilities there. And the other thing I was thinking about, and I was thinking about this feeling of despair. And this was what I thought about my own despair. And I've heard from a lot of clients and friends their own despair. And for me, despair is where we are witnessing what is, and our compassion arises. Perhaps there's so much going on that, especially if you're an empathetic person and you really feel it, not just see it, you feel it, like me. The next part of the feeling is wanting to do something to help, right? And there are things that we can't do anything about right now. So that compassion, when it meets helplessness, can feel like despair. So the other reframe I did with that was to turn our compassion into some action we can take. I've heard and I understand when people have resistance to sheltering in place, which I like to say shelter in soul. Another reframe. Shelter in place, I'm stuck at home. That's all I could do. Or shelter in soul, I have this time that I'm being asked to do things differently. For what purpose? To be with my soul, to understand myself more deeply, to do an inner remodel, to fortify my spirit so that when we go back to a new normal, I have much more to contribute, much more to offer. So shelter in soul for me is a purposeful and full of intention of how one would utilize this time. In fact, I have a online program I created last time. Was it April or May? Right away, I knew this is an opportunity for transformation and healing. I want to lean in. I found myself kind of, as most people were experiencing too, kind of floundering. I was talking to my friend the other day about all my goals I had for this time. And I felt this push to get it all done. And then I found I didn't have the capacity to do it all. There was too much going on in the world that I felt. And I was in that pattern of pushing myself to do more, to be more, to feel better. You know, that can be an addiction in itself. I've been talking about addiction a lot with clients, and addiction is this in my mind. Addiction is when we're trying to get a need met on the external, in the world, or from someone else, or from ourselves, in a pattern, in a way that disconnects us from getting it met in a healthy way. Okay, so where was I going with that? So yes, despair. That means that we feel stuck. We can't help. We can't do what we want to do. We feel helpless in our helping ourselves or helping others. This is where I was going. So I've heard this, and I understand one of the resistance or pushbacks against, doing this, staying at home more and being mindful of that. What's the higher purpose for that? That there are, that's really hard, because there are people who are stuck at home, maybe with an abuser, domestic violence. Hurts my heart to think about it. And yes, that is a reality. Or someone who's isolated or depressed at home, or has a drug or alcohol addiction during this time. I get it. I understand it. And so what happens, though, is that us personally, that's all we can see is this isn't going to work because these people are being harmed. And that's beautiful compassion and beautiful awareness. And we feel despair because we feel like we can't do anything about it. Like our hands are tied, right? So my reframe and a way to be with this is, first of all, there's an NLP term, another way of perspective shifting, which is either chunking to the big picture. We see it all, like all the people that are harmed by this, all the problems, all the division, all the everything. And it's like, oh, it's so much, right? It's so overwhelming. So the idea is to chunk down to see a smaller portion, right? And this is really, really important. To see a smaller view, and the view we need to look at that we can take action from, that we can do something, is the view of our own inner world, our own beliefs about what's happening. And from there, we can choose what would be the compassionate action. Yes, these are real issues going on out there. So what can you do? We can't, change the government right now to have it look and be the way we want it to be so that everything is better. That's not going to happen. Probably may never happen. I mean, I think there's a lot of transformation that needs to take place with our own government. But are we going to do that today? No. What can you do today? You can work with the one that you can transform, yourself. With the mind you can transform, your own. With a perspective that you can change, your own, right? So let's look at domestic violence, okay? Painful when I go way out to think about all the women or men in harm's way. It hurts my heart. Can I do anything in this moment? No, except short of praying, right? And I believe prayer and visioning and envisioning something different. If I knew someone in harm's way that way, perhaps I could personally reach out to them, okay? But I personally don't know anyone in that situation right now, but I know that it's happening. What can I do? Well, I can look up agencies that do help with domestic violence, and I can make a donation, and I can inquire, what are they doing, or what suggestions do they have for me to do something? I think despair and frustration comes from that feeling of helplessness. I cannot do anything. But remember, there's always something you can do. And it's finding what you can do and looking through the filter of compassion for self and others and the world. Compassion. To take that compassionate action. So you feel like you are contributing, okay? And the other thing I was thinking about this morning is that during this time, I'm going to read what I wrote on my post, so let's see if I can bounce off of this. That reframing is a powerful, powerful perspective shift. And it helps us shift from stuck to no possibilities, to helpless, to something else, right? So we tend to, and I've caught myself, so just notice yourself, we tend to complain about what we can't do. And when we do that, we're squandering time for what we can do and finding opportunities and possibilities. And to remember also, what we resist persists. So if we're resisting what is, that's all that we're going to be present to. Okay, so a reframe helps us look in a different perspective, different way, different perspective, and see different possibilities and different opportunities. Okay, so take action on what you can do within your current circumstances. Okay, here's the key: what can you do that meets the need of what you are longing to do? Okay. That's where we get stuck. Like, I have a need to help or reach out, but I can't do it in the way that I want to. What can I do? Okay. And to remember this too, that this is a temporary thing that will be changing. We will get through this together. We will. But what also came to my mind this morning, and when I'm really, really stuck, to tell you the truth, I look for inspiration for people who've had, not to compare, because comparing can diminish our own personal experience, and I don't want you to do that. Honor your own experience. If it's hard, it's hard. Honor that, know that. But it is helpful, for me anyway, to go and look at the lives of, like the heroes of our veterans that have been, lost limbs, lost legs, I saw a story about a man who lost his arms and legs in war. That is a permanent different, a permanent can't do, a permanent I'll never walk again, not in the way that they had before. But what did they choose that they could do? They took their can't and said, I can. Whew, those stories inspire me and empower me. So when you feel stuck and I can't, and believe me, I find myself here too. And I share this a lot here where I can't. I feel like coming late to the game of YouTube, late to the game of social media and promoting my work, even late to the game of, if it's a game, the game of life, of my own, my career. I changed careers when I was in my 30s, okay? And I'm still learning and growing, although I've been doing this for a while. So what can we do? And again, if you need inspiration, go look at people who have overcome unbelievable obstacles, unbelievable life challenges, unbelievable, painful, heartbreaking circumstances. And then come back to this current circumstance, your current circumstance. And while I understand, and I want to honor this, we're all very different, and we all have very different circumstances. We all have very different programming and resources in our subconscious mind to help us navigate what is. That's another reason I do these videos, to help expand awareness, to nurture potential, and to help us all reach for something higher and greater for ourselves, for each other, for this world, right? So what else did I write here? So that meeting the need of what you're longing to do, or if you feel like I can't help in the way I want to, how can you meet that need of helping? Right where you are, just as you are. Again, there is great power in prayer, and incredible power in prayer. Or I like to call it, this technique I've done in my own life with people I felt disconnected from, and I still do this, or I want to help and I can't. I call it spirit to spirit connection. I imagine I close my eyes. I imagine the person that I want to help that I can't help physically, and I connect with them spiritually, and I even talk to them, and I envision with them, and I imagine their needs being met in the way that resolves what they're struggling with. And I do believe that is a contribution. And I have a story about that. Don't know that I'm going to tell it here, but it's very significant, and it convinced me this works. And I will tell you. I had to pause for a moment to check and see if this was too personal, but pretty open on here. So I'll tell you. It was years ago, if I can tell you without crying. My niece had a very rare form of cancer, and I was, as I still am, in Washington State, and she was in California. And though I had taken time off to be with her, she did some alternative healing in Mexico during the last few weeks, maybe months of her life. I was here, and it was during that stage of her journey with cancer, where this is very common, where in fact the stages of grief was developed for the person going through the letting go of life. She was in a very depressed, closed, angry phase of her journey, and she didn't want to talk on the phone. I understood, and I felt like I couldn't connect with her, and that was hard. And so I had a nightly ritual where I'd light a candle, or just before I fell asleep, I would close my eyes and I would imagine being with her in her room. Whew. And I would imagine, okay, I'm going to lose it a little bit here, but I would imagine connecting with her and stroking her hair and telling her I loved her. And I just imagined being with her and comforting her in the way that I wanted to. So I did this nightly for a while. And then one day she did call me and she said, "Auntie, I have a very strange question for you." And I said, "Okay, what's your question?" And she said, "Do you come into my room at night?" Wow. I was like, "What do you mean?" And she described what she felt was what I was doing from my heart, from my soul, spirit to spirit connection. I was with her even though we were in different states. So I believe in this. I don't not only believe it, I've lived it, okay? So when you feel helpless, you can't reach someone or do something, hey, we're only limited in our physicalness. We're only limited in our human minds. We're only limited in our thoughts and how we are perceiving what is. When we expand out of that, we see other possibilities, okay? And we meet those needs for connection, for, I really wanted to comfort her, to let someone know you love them, even though you may not be talking to this person. You know what's more painful than not talking to someone, or being estranged from someone, or being disconnected or separated, or, maybe you're going through a divorce. You know what's more painful is shutting down the love you feel for the person. I truly feel that. I imagine it like there's this flow of love going out, and then all of a sudden we shut it down because we're angry, or we're disappointed, or not working the way we wanted it to, or we think we can't connect. So we shut it down. That's what causes pain. No, keep flowing your love. Keep flowing your intention and your desire to be of support, even though you can't do it physically right now, okay? And this is, again, only temporary. So, okay, let's see if I have this last bit, and then we're going to wrap up. And I never know where I'm going to go with these conversations. I let spirit lead me. I let my soul open. I let my heart open, trusting that whatever has been on my heart and mind is something you're thinking about or something you're going through. And I offer this to support you and all of us. So let me know what touches you through this conversation. I'm talking to myself. I'm imagining I'm talking to someone out there. And that's where I love comments, because I know that my heart has reached a heart out there, or my soul. And I'd love to know what your takeaway is from this, and where maybe you could have, or maybe you've had a shift of perspective. And a shift, when we have a shift, it feels like our whole body, mind, and soul is at peace with what is, So I want to hear, have you had a shift, or is there some place you can shift with a reframe to think about a situation differently, that opens up more space, more possibility, more love, more healing, right? Okay, so this last part. So address the barriers. This is really important. This time, I feel everything is purposeful. I think this time is purposeful, not only to help us, kind of put a lid on this COVID from spreading, but it's purposeful. Again, we look at the human experience. What's that? What's the purpose there? And then what's the spiritual or soul potential here? And it's important to think about it there. So what I wrote was, it's important to take this time to address the barriers that were already in your way. What does that mean? Barriers that were already in your way, beyond what the government's doing or what we're being asked to do. There were already barriers in your way. And you know what those barriers are? Your thoughts, your patterns, and how you view your world. Okay? So address the barriers that were already in your way now, so that when we get through this time, and we will, you'll be even more prepared and more fully ready to experience what you have been visioning for, what you have been desiring, that is beyond the perceived, and I want to say perceived, even though it feels real, perceived experience of limitation. The only limitation is the limitation on how you are viewing what is. And you know what? Wherever we are, what's that saying? Wherever we go, there we are. So I feel a lot of people are frustrated because there's nowhere to go. Well, people are still going, but honoring the staying at home more, there's nowhere to go beyond your own mind and your own life circumstances. So look for the barriers, look for your limitations of thought and perceiving, and practice the reframe. So really simply, a reframe takes the way you're thinking about something. How does that feel? Does it feel limiting? Does it feel like it's helping me or hindering me? And how can I turn that around to make it like there's more possibility, more movement, more energy flow? So just like I did at the beginning, I have to do this, to I get to do this much lighter, much freer, much more possibility. All right. I hope this helped you. And please, again, comment, like this video, share this video, get people to subscribe to my channel. And I understand that the more you like or comment on my videos, the more it helps me outreach to people out in the public. And you help me fulfill my mission. And that is my goal of a greater outreach, for the greater ability to support and nurture soul potential. All right, so I hope you also do something nurturing for your own soul today. Maybe this video nurtured you a little bit, but choose something that when you do this for yourself, you feel a little bit more energized, a little bit more grounded and centered and cared for. Thanks for spending some of your precious time with me today. Take good care. Until next time.